All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling Aaron McGruder's The Boondocks.
Ooh, the Boondocks, huh?
Yeah, a show that, well, it really went from, like, just this webcomic
Right.
to, it blew up, right, like, culturally.
Yeah, really did.
So we've got a bunch of sources, articles and
Yeah.
reviews, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
We're going to, like, dissect them and really get into
Swole.
why The Boondocks still matters, even today.
Well, and what's interesting is it didn't just entertain. It really sparked these conversations
Oh, yeah.
about race, identity, media representation.
Big time.
In a way, I think few other shows really have.
Totally. And to think, it all started back in '96
Wow.
as a webcomic.
Yeah.
You believe that?
That's wild.
And then, boom, it explodes.
Right.
Syndicated comic strip, like over 160 newspapers.
Oh, wow.
That's a bigger launch than most superheroes get, I think.
You're probably right, yeah. It seems like Magruder was really hitting a nerve. He wasn't afraid to tackle tough issues.
Oh, he went
And
out.
people responded.
For me, it's the characters. It's Huey and Riley. Those brothers, they moved from the city out to the suburbs to live with their granddad.
Right, right.
And you've got Huey, he's like the politically aware one, always questioning everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's Riley, who's more into that...
The gangsta.
Yeah, that gangsta image.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're these two sides of the
100%.
Black experience in America, you know what I mean?
That's what makes them so interesting.
Yeah.
They're not just funny. They embody these tensions.
Exactly.
How do we see Black identity?
Yes.
And then their granddad is from a whole other generation.
Oh, yeah.
So you get these clashes
Oh, the clashes are great.
between the generations, too.
And it's like he took that classic sitcom setup, fish out of water,
Yeah.
and just injected it with this
Oh, yeah.
razor-sharp social commentary.
Yes.
He didn't shy away from anything. Hip-hop, history, politics. It's layered, man.
So layered. And that's why people still watch it today,
Absolutely.
It's fun to watch, but then there's so much more there.
Totally agree.
You pick up new things every time.
And always find something new. But we can't talk about the Boondocks without talking about, the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The N-word.
Right.
The show's use of it, it was like constant debate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people, they saw it as authentic to the characters, their world.
Their world.
But others, they just found it offensive.
Yeah, they found it unnecessary.
Like it didn't need to be there.
Yeah, and it drew a lot of criticism.
Oh, for sure.
People like Reverend Al Sharpton.
Right.
They organized protests, condemned it.
Big time.
But Magruder defended it.
Yeah.
He said it reflected reality.
Right.
Said, if you sanitize the language,
Yeah.
you lose the authenticity.
Right, right.
You can't have these conversations.
He didn't have those conversations.
He wanted to have about race and language.
Yeah, he even compared it to, like, how Black artists were criticized for showing, like, the real Black life in music, in art.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like he was saying, look, this is our world, whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
And it made people have those uncomfortable conversations about race and language.
And one of the biggest flashpoints
Oh, yeah.
was the episode where Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, wow, yeah.
is shown using the N-word.
I remember that.
Really bold choice.
Oh, yeah.
Sparked a lot of debate.
Intense debate.
Where's the line with satire?
Right.
What about the legacy of someone like King?
Yeah.
Some felt it was disrespectful.
Right.
Trivialized his message.
Yeah, yeah.
Others defended it.
Really?
Said, it's commentary
Yeah.
on language. How even, these iconic figures, they're human.
They're human. It's not just the N-word, though, right?
No, not at all.
He went after institutions like BET,
Oh, yeah.
accusing them of, pushing those negative stereotypes of Black culture.
Right.
That was huge.
It was.
People were either like, go, man, go,
Yeah.
or
Right.
you're a traitor,
Yeah, yeah.
Strong reactions.
He was very specific in his critiques, though.
Was he?
He called out shows like Bet Uncut,
Oh.
which, it was very sexualized content, maybe exploitative.
Right, right.
And he argued, instead of showing the diversity of Black culture, BT was going for the lowest common denominator,
Right.
reinforcing bad stereotypes.
Yeah, I remember that. And he didn't just talk about it.
No, he didn't?
He put it right in the show. That episode, Truth,
Oh, yes.
parody of BT, hilarious.
Butt cutting.
Oh, man, it was savage. You could tell he was trying to make a point.
He was. And it worked. It got people talking about
Yes.
media representation,
Yeah.
how should these networks
Right.
portray Black communities?
That's a big question.
Authenticity,
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah.
He was challenging people to think about what they're
Yeah.
watching, to demand better.
Yeah.
You know?
Higher standards.
Exactly.
I mean, it's crazy that a cartoon can do that, right? Like spark these big conversations.
I know.
But the Boondocks wasn't just about like
Right.
shock value, It had
Oh, yeah.
real depth, substance, and it pushed those buttons.
It did. In a good way, though.
Yeah.
I think Magruder was tapping into this need
Oh, yeah.
for real representation.
Absolutely.
Media that shows how complex Black life is.
Not watering it down.
Not watering it down at all.
And he did it with like this biting wit,
Oh, yeah.
this fearlessness, even when it was uncomfortable. You have to just admire it. But that boldness, it had a cost, right?
It did.
Especially when Magruder left before season 4.
Yeah, you can definitely feel it. Season 4 just doesn't have that same energy.
It's missing something.
It's missing something. And I think it's that Magruder vision.
Yeah.
His, willingness to just push the limits.
It's like, losing the head chef in the middle of a masterpiece.
Ooh, good analogy.
Like the ingredients are there, but the flavor,
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
not quite right.
And it shows you, creative control, it matters.
Big time.
The Boondocks was so personal to Magruder.
Yeah, you could feel it.
His voice was like part of the DNA of the show.
Right. And speaking of his voice, you mentioned Black Jesus earlier.
Yeah?
Another show that, didn't exactly shy away from
No, not at all.
anything controversial.
I mean, it tackled religion head on.
Really?
Reimagined Jesus as a modern-day Black man living in Compton.
Wow.
Still about social justice, inequality,
Yeah.
but more comedic, more irreverent.
Yeah, that definitely sparked some debate.
Oh, yeah. Some people, blasphemy.
Yeah.
Others saw it as, satire,
Right.
challenging those traditional images of Jesus.
Okay, yeah.
And it got people thinking about
Yeah.
faith today
Yeah.
in the modern world.
I like that. And then there's Black America.
Oh, yeah.
That alternate history thing for Amazon.
Right, right.
That's where, freed slaves
Yeah.
get the southern states as reparations.
And they build their own nation.
A whole separate nation.
It's mind-blowing.
Talk about thought-provoking, right?
It really makes you think.
It's like he's always pushing the boundaries of storytelling.
He is.
Taking these huge, complex ideas
Yeah.
and making them into these narratives that
Yeah.
make you question everything.
He wants us to think critically
For sure.
about race, identity, history, what it means to be Black in America today.
And you know what's funny?
What's that?
Even with these serious topics, he always brings the humor.
He does. Always that wit.
Yeah.
Keeps it engaging.
So you're laughing 1 minute. Right.
Deeply reflecting the next.
Yeah. I think that's what makes him so brilliant. He knows
Yeah.
humor can be this powerful tool
Powerful.
for social commentary. Disarms you.
Yeah.
Makes you open to ideas
Oh, yeah.
that maybe you wouldn't be otherwise.
So, going back to the beginning of our deep dive,
Yeah.
what would you say is the lasting impact of the Boondocks? Did it change the game?
I don't think it's just a product of its time.
No.
No, it's bigger than that. It's a landmark.
Wow.
In animation, in Black representation, in satire.
Really?
It influenced a whole generation of creators.
Yeah. I can see that.
And people are still talking about these issues today.
Yeah. For me, it's the fearlessness.
The fearlessness.
It showed that you can be bold, provocative,
Yeah.
and still connect with people.
Yeah.
It raised the bar for what animation could do.
Especially for shows about Black characters.
Exactly. And they weren't afraid of being controversial.
Right.
Pushing boundaries, challenging the status quo, and that opened doors for other shows
Yeah.
to do the same.
We see it in shows like Atlanta.
Insecure.
BoJack Horseman even.
Yeah, all dealing with complex themes
Yeah.
in nuanced ways,
Yeah.
pushing those boundaries of what's acceptable.
And that's because of the Boondocks.
It's part of it, yeah. It showed that audiences,
Yeah.
they want more than just to be entertained.
Right.
They want to think, to feel, to engage with the world.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Like the Boondocks planted this seed,
A seed.
and now we're seeing all these
The fruits.
fruits growing from it.
Exactly.
It's a legacy that goes way beyond ratings or awards.
Way beyond.
It's about changing the conversation.
Cultural impact.
Yeah. And that takes us back to your question, right?
Yeah.
Would the Boondocks be as impactful today?
Tough question.
It is. It's like
It's intriguing, but,
impossible to answer.
impossible to answer for sure.
But it's worth thinking about.
It is.
Could a show like this even exist now? I mean, everything's so sensitive.
So politically charged.
Would it be embraced, condemned?
Would it even be noticed?
Or just get lost in all the noise?
Yeah, think about it.
Right. Social media amplifies everything.
Everything.
The good, the bad.
Imagine the Twitter storms.
Oh,
the think pieces.
All the calls for boycotts.
And then the people defending it just as passionately.
It's overwhelming to even think about.
It is.
Would Magruder's voice even break through all that?
Would it resonate?
Yeah.
Or just get lost in the noise? Would people still think critically?
Or would it be reduced to just
sound bites?
Hashtags.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if something does get lost, When everyone's got a platform.
Right.
It's like back then, the Boondocks was this voice cutting through all the noise.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what made it hit so hard.
I think you're right. It was pre-social media.
Right.
So it had this way of capturing the whole conversation.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't competing with a million other things.
A million other voices. And, it wasn't just about the big controversial stuff.
Right.
For me, it was the Boondocks was so good at showing the everyday stuff of Black life.
Those small moments.
Yeah, the little things that, most people don't even notice.
Totally. It was funny, but also kind of heartbreaking sometimes.
Yes.
Like they nailed those family relationships,
Yeah.
The struggles of growing up.
Being Black in a world that doesn't always see you.
Doesn't get it, yeah.
Remember that episode where Huey tries to get his hair cut?
Oh, yeah.
Like a revolutionary?
Ends up looking ridiculous.
It's so funny. But it's also that pressure on young Black people to fit in,
Look a certain way.
Or Riley, when he tries to start his own gang.
Oh, that's a classic.
Falls apart because
he
doesn't actually know what being a gangsta means.
What it means. It's poked fun at that whole
gangster image.
But at the same time, he's still just a kid.
Yeah, vulnerable.
Naive.
Those are the moments that really got me. They felt real. Even with all the satire, the commentary.
Yeah, it made the characters feel so human.
Yeah.
Even when they were doing crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that mix of humor and heart.
Right.
And just that sharp eye for society.
Yes.
That made the Boondocks so special.
Such a unique show.
So I guess wrapping up our deep dive.
Yeah.
It feels like we've got more questions than answers.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Right.
Could the Boondocks even happen today?
Would it be a hit? Would people hate it?
Or would it just get swallowed up by everything else?
All the content out there.
Maybe the real question is, what kind of art is going to challenge us?
Yeah.
Provoke us, make us think differently.
In the future.
In the future, yeah. Because the things the Boondocks talked about, race, identity, media.
It's all still relevant.
It's all still happening, so, who knows?
Maybe there's a new generation out there.
Right.
Inspired by the Boondocks.
Ready to push it even further.
I hope so. We need those voices.
The bold ones. The ones that make us squirm a little.
Yeah, make us uncomfortable. Challenge us to see things differently.
Demand better from our media, from ourselves.
Well said. Well, on that note, I think that's our deep dive.
Yeah, I think so.
It's been great exploring the Boondocks with you. It's a show that, it makes you think.
Still sparks debate.
It reminds us that art can,
challenge us.
Provoke us.
Inspire us.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.